Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 738. Rose, Deebo, and Chalamet. Hello, Big Chillians. Welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. Sun's out. It feels like
Guns
I'm
out?
approaching, no guns out today, but it feels like I might be approaching shorts weather. I think I'm
Wow.
2 weeks. Well, obviously we're going on our trip and then I'm going to Las Vegas, so that will delay it, but it feels like...
Or that will accelerate it. Shorts in Vegas.
Yeah, I'd probably wear shorts in
95.
Las Vegas. Yeah, but that's different. Me going to the desert does not mean it's suddenly shorts weather in Paris. But no, I'm hopeful. We've got a few good days ahead of us, and that beginning of April certainly I can switch to shorts.
Yeah, it's been shorts weather here for a while. I'm not a big shorts person anymore. I feel like I wear jeans until it's like about 95 degrees out. I've become acclimated. It doesn't help that my office is kept way too cold. So,
well, see, that's the thing is you obviously have air conditioning everywhere you go. And also, I think when you live in a country where you experience at least, let's say, really 4 seasons, it means that the sort of shorts become emblematic of the fact that it's summer. For you, you don't have that experience because it's like, well, winters are a little chillier, but I could probably wear shorts if I really wanted to during the day. To like, well, now it's so hot, I have to wear shorts.
There's maybe, if you wanted to, 10 to 15 days that you can't wear shorts here.
Tough.
So you could go the other way and be like, hell yeah, it's pants weather, finally.
I think you could be the opposite. You could be like, it's jacket weather. I think you could get just as excited maybe about throwing on a jacket that you only get, a month to really wear. I think you could do that.
That winter chill.
Scarf weather.
No, I've never seen anyone with a scarf here. Speaking of winter weather, I have officially come out of retirement, 27 years in the making, and have played my first ice hockey game since I was 11 years old last night.
Congratulations. I'm just going to say I could very nicely clip the I've officially come out of retirement into a very different statement there. But how did the return to ice hockey go?
Frustrating, I think is the word I would use to sum it up. I'm playing in the lowest tier, which there are people there who also play in our roller leagues. Obviously, there's like a lot of mixing. And the people that are playing in there, I would absolutely dominate when we play roller. Like to the point where I can't even kind of play in their leagues because it's that low. But then coming to ice, I can stick handle and shoot and pass better than most of these guys, but I cannot skate for the fucking life of me. And it was so frustrating to like not be able to turn right or like move laterally to get the puck or to kind of just evade people. Tough to stop, obviously, because I'm used to roller, which is a completely different way of stopping. I only fell once, which is on video, and it's a pretty bad fall. Like I'm just kind of standing there and just instantly eat it. It wasn't, no one even touched me. But other than that, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I was pretty just disappointed and frustrated yesterday, but I woke up this morning kind of being like, I really want to get out now and get some good ice time in and really figure out how to skate again because it was fun.
Well, I hope you don't Duke a curse yourself with that venture, but I'm sure with the move to Minnesota, it seems the perfect time to be getting back into it.
Exactly. We did win 4-2. I had a goal and an assist, and I was player of the game.
Okay. I don't know how to interpret your first assessment of how you played with the fact that you also won player of the game. Maybe this goes back to the conversation in the last podcast in Ange Postecoglou. Have you taken advantage of statistics that were not representative of your overall performance?
Yes, the goal was an empty net goal.
Nice.
It did seal it, but it was an empty net. The assist was actually probably the nicest play of the game. It was, I caught it off the boards and then like behind the back, no look to the guy in front who just drained it in front. It was actually like, and that's the thing is like, I can still do those types of things, like passing, knowing where people are, the hockey IQ part is there, but the execution on once I get the puck and have to move, it's frustrating. Like I had a breakaway, like half of a breakaway. I probably could have made it like right in front of the goalie without being caught. But as I was kind of going in, I thought, if I try and make a move, a deke, there's a high probability I just fucking eat it and fall into the net. So instead, I'm just going to shoot it from the circle. And I took a decent shot and kind of just missed the net a little bit. But it was one of those things where, like, normally if that's roller hockey, I'm taking that in and making pretty much one of the two moves that I always make, which on this goalie I've done dozens of times in roller and beat him, but just no confidence to be able to skate and make those types of moves.
Well, I look forward to visiting you and watching the slow motion hockey. I'm sure that will be...
That is slow motion. If you thought roller is slow motion and we're playing in like an advanced roller league, this at the lowest level of ice hockey, I mean, like, that's the thing is I'm sitting on the bench watching this. I'm just like, how the fuck am I not dominating this right now? This is so annoying.
Yeah, I can get you. Well, one player who would dominate in that league, obviously, is Connor McDavid. And I know when we visited Sedona, we spoke about the unique logo, one of the sort of 10 or 15 it's the only one of that color, but there are lots of McDonald's around the world that have the M in different colors. But what became unique this week is that in honor of Canada's success in the Four Nations tournament, they temporarily renamed two McDonald's in Canada to McDavid's.
I saw that. That was pretty cool. Unfortunate that he's probably too much of a health freak to ever visit McDonald's or McDavid's, but I like it. It's cool. Canada does a good job of having fun publicity stunts like this. They do those types of things well, and they're not taken too seriously. Like, if that were something in the States, there'd be some sort of political, ideological frustration with it, or so, like it would be taken so out of context and so annoying. But in Canada, they just do it. No one really cares. Everyone thinks it's fun, it's funny, and then they get over it.
Well, you've teed me up perfectly for my next quick subject, which is speaking about political controversy. President Trump, he's been stirring the waters in a number of different areas, and obviously his meeting with Zelensky and the handling of Ukraine and different topics have been getting some backlash and being met with some skepticism. But one of his points, which has flown a little bit under the radar over the last couple of days, is his continued...
The NFL kickoff is ruined.
Now he's moved on to a slightly different sporting topic. He is very upset that Major League Baseball still hasn't let Pete Rose into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah. And on True Social, he came out and said, Major League Baseball didn't have the courage or decency to put the late, great Pete Rose, also known as Charlie Hustle, into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Now he is dead. He will never experience the thrill of being selected, even though he was a far better player than most of those who made it. The far better player was on all caps.
Yes, it was.
And can only be named posthumously. What a shame. Anyway,
all caps.
All caps. Anyway, over the next few weeks, I will be signing a complete all caps pardon of Pete Rose, who shouldn't have been gambling on baseball, but only bet on his team winning. He never betted, it's an interesting word, against himself or the other team. I don't know how that works. He had the most hits by far.
He never betted against the other team.
No, or
he
himself.
Only bet on his team to win.
Yeah.
He was just a prop player. He was ahead of his day.
Yeah. I just want to bet on the fact that a game will take place today. Will you accept that?
Yeah. He's just betting over under total times of games.
Yeah. He had the most hits by far in baseball history and won more games than anyone in sports history. Baseball, which is dying all over the place, should get its fat, lazy ass and get off its fat, lazy ass and elect Pete Rose, even though far too late, into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
It's just amazing. It's like, as impacted as my career has been by just the fucking craziness upon which he works, it is impressive to just sit down sometimes and just see the randomness for which he can go off on things. How much does he really know about Pete Rose and baseball in particular?
So I think
he can name what team he's on.
I think they were friends, which is why he's defending him, right? I think And he sticks to his campaign promises. So probably at some moment in time, he promised Pete Rose that he would get him into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
It's number 37 on Project 2025.
And Donald Trump
eliminate the NFL kickoff and get Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame.
Donald Trump is a man of his word, so he has to get Pete Rose in there. The thing that's interesting, right? Do you remember when Obama started doing the March Madness bracket and Republicans were like, as president, how do you have time to be filling out a bracket? That was a legitimate controversy for about a week, that he went on ESPN, took 15 minutes to fill out a bracket, and they're like, the president should have better things to worry about. And now we have President of the United States tweeting about a dead baseball player and why he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Not tweeting, truthing.
Truthing. And going to sign an executive order to pardon him. That's big news. He's focusing all of his attention in the right areas.
That's funny. I thought it was going to be the NFL kickoff.
No,
Speaking of this, I don't know if I saw it correctly, but I think Trump Jr. is financially backing a alternative to Major League Baseball maybe it's not baseball. It could just be all sports or like specific sports that allows steroid use. Have you seen this?
Is this not the games we spoke about maybe a year ago, 2 years ago?
It might be, but now it's getting like financial backing. And I think Trump Jr. is one of them.
Rival to the Olympic Games that was willing to let anyone use. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Maybe Pete Rose will be elected into that Hall of Fame.
Drag his corpse out there, see if he can still get a hit. Now, moving on to lighter topics, as I continue my little sort of shotgun approach to things I've seen or listened to recently. I was listening to the Ryan Russillo podcast, which I don't listen to too frequently, but it does make I do enjoy their life advice segment. One of the questions was asked, would you rather be 5'8" or 7 foot tall?
Oh, being as someone who's basically right in the middle, it's tough for me to figure that out. 7 foot tall is pretty tall.
So for context on the 7 foot tall one, 17% of Americans who are 7 foot tall or taller play in the NBA.
Really?
So so once you hit
that's a high number.
Once you hit 7 foot, you have a 1 in 5 chance of being an NBA player.
Okay, how many 5'8" people are in the NBA?
Not a lot.
Percentage of all Americans. I don't know. I feel like 7 foot is too tall. I feel like, one, your life expectancy is probably going down just because you're so tall. Two, everything in your everyday life is not fit for you. So like you're constantly ducking under doorways, not being able to fit in things, like reaching for handles. Like handles are always going to be like in the wrong spots than where it normally would. So like all that stuff would be super frustrating, like sleeping in beds, going on airplanes, going in cars. That all is going to suck at 7 foot. Whereas 5'8", it's short, but it's actually probably the average height of an American. So it's not.
I think so.
Like,
I think it's pretty much average height. It's like 5'8", 5'9"
Yeah. So I'd much rather have that, I think. Plus, I'm not really drawn to the NBA.
No, but are you drawn to the millions of dollars and the lifestyle that comes with playing in the NBA? Because I would basically say,
then you have to be that guy. Like, think of those 7 footers. A lot of them aren't well respected. You know, they're like, this guy sucks. He's just only in there because he's 7 foot. You're going to get a lot of that in your career.
You know what? You know where that feedback doesn't matter? Your bank account. You could spend that money just the same, regardless of how people think you earned it. But
can't buy happiness.
No, you can't. I think I would agree with you that already I'm placing a 1 in 5 bet. If I don't become an NBA player or a professional athlete, let's bump it to 1 in 4. I'm a professional athlete, because obviously there's some other sports you could play. You'd be a useful NFL prospect in terms of, depending on how you built your body. You know, becoming a lineman becomes way easier for sure.
Yeah.
I think I would want to know one thing. Am I a coordinated 7 footer, or am I just one of those gangly, awkward 7 footers?
Who knows? I mean, I think at a point, aren't they all kind of gangly? Even if you're coordinated and athletic, you're still gangly.
You're still gangly, but I want to be coordinated. Like, I want to be Wembayama. I don't want to, I want to be able to move sort of normally and not feel like my size is an issue when it comes to sort of day-to-day activities. But I agree with you. You're locked into a life of inconvenience. Like, you have to get custom everything. You are going to struggle just sitting, even going to a restaurant and sitting in a chair. there's a strong chance that you're going to go to a lot of restaurants where it's like, I can't fit in this chair. I can't sit under this table. There's just going to be tough stuff on that front. Airplane, yeah, you're even in first class, you're going to struggle in a lot of situations. I think I probably go 5'8".
Yeah. Wow. Welcome to the club.
No, it would be.
All right.
It would be a.
I'll alternate this. What then would be the height that you would settle for? That you would say like, I definitely choose that over 5'8".
So I'm 6'2". I would happily go to 6'6". I think once you start going above 6'6", you're getting into.
I would say
awkward.
6'8's the cutoff.
Yeah, but I think 7, 6'8", you're starting to get into, how difficult is it to find clothes, shoes, being in a bed, how tough is that? I think 6'6", you could still buy all your clothes in a normal place. You can definitely sleep on most normal beds. Yes, flights will be annoying, or getting in the backseat of a car will be annoying, but it's not going to be impossible. Right. And on my final random sports updates from the week, or topics, don't know if you saw, but the Houston Dynamos were due to play Inter Miami, or will be playing Inter Miami. They are offering, it turns out that Lionel Messi will not be playing because he is injured. So he has not traveled to Houston.
Too cold from that game. He had to prove himself.
He has never recovered. Well, basically retired since then. So the Houston Dynamos yesterday tweeted out that they will be offering anyone. They apologized for the fact that people have undoubtedly bought tickets for this match because they expected to see Messi. And in exchange, if you attend the match, they will give you a free ticket to a future match.
Could you imagine that happening in like the Premier League? Sorry, Erling Haaland is not playing today. We'll give you a free match of your choice any other time.
Like, it's a nice gesture, and I'm sure that people, if you've paid a lot because your kid loves Messi and this is the chance to go and see them, but I don't know, this feels like you're treating yourself as a joke and an afterthought and sort of the bit role in the movie. And if you want your league to be taken seriously, things like this, not great.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Next, actually, I've got one more. So we discussed Matthew Stafford and the prospects of him being traded on the last episode. He has since restructured his deal.
Yep.
We
jinxed him back to the Rams.
Well, you took a curse to your own segment that you came up with. And his wife, who has a podcast, was very outspoken, saying that she basically wanted Stafford to be traded, that she loves being in LA, but she felt like he deserved to be on a team that was focused on winning, and that some of the moves that they've made in this offseason have shown them that the Rams are not, and that Matthew Stafford deserves more respect than that and deserves to be treated better than that. I don't know. Hard to put myself both into the professional athlete and married category. But I don't know if I would. I don't know if
over two right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I would love my wife stirring up trade controversy on my behalf on her podcast. I think that might be take that.
I mean, she has
down,
a podcast,
please.
And she needs something to talk about, right? And the reason she has a podcast is because she's Matt Stafford's wife. You have to talk about what you're there for, basically.
I guess. I don't know if you're going to take shots at his current employer as part of that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, maybe she's fed up with the LA Rams. Maybe they're a bullshit organization. Who knows?
Speaking of NFL trades,
where's Deebo been?
He's going to Washington.
Knew that was coming. You know where he's been? He's been on a plane to Dulles.
He's been looking into the Washington area real estate market and trying to find something useful. He was traded for a 5th-round pick.
Wow. 5th-round pick. What a bust.
I think it's the 148th pick in this year's draft, so not exactly a huge return. Supposedly last year, the Niners were asking for a 4th-round pick. I will say it surprises me that 12 months ago they were only asking for a 4th-rounder, and it surprises me that off the back of the bad season that he had this year, that his trade value has only dropped by a single round.
Yeah, so he was signed in the off season before the 2022 season. So since his big contract, which was 3-year, $74 million with $58 million guarantees, he then went on to, so that the season that was before that, he started all 16 games and he had 1,400 yards receiving, another 350 rushing, and a total of 14 touchdowns. The next season, he only played 13 games and only had 600 yards receiving, 200 yards rushing, and only had 5 touchdowns. So a third of the touchdowns and less than half of the yardage. Then in 2023, 800 and 220, and then last year, 670 and 130. So the production since signing has been pretty bad. Not a good signing by the Niners, who I think the Niners are an interesting organization in the sense that they make a lot of good picks and good signings, but then I feel like they make a lot of really shitty signings and picks. It's like it either goes one way or the other for the Niners.
I don't think they've got a lot of big contract extensions right over the last few years. They've definitely handled those
Trent Williams,
poorly.
right?
Yeah,
that's a pretty good one.
But there's a bit there's obviously and Kittle and stuff. Like you can definitely point to some players where those were safe bets. But I think in every instance where it's been should we not, has ended in a we shouldn't have. Deebo Samuel is a big example of that. Brendan Ayuk is headed in that direction too. And then who even knows, Christian McCaffrey, that might be one they end up regretting depending on how healthy he can stay. So you can really look at what was a core of a very lethal offense that took them to the Super Bowl. They could have made mistakes with all of their contract extensions. With Deebo, I think the Ayuk, he was the holding out, and you're paying a real premium for a player who maybe hasn't established himself as a go-to primary receiver in the league. I think that was the big question. With Deebo, I think the thing that was concerning was the contract extension coincided with when he didn't want to be used as much. So the thing that made him so devastating was the fact that he was being used heavily in the run game and being put in motion and being used as this sort of Swiss Army knife. And he then wanted an extension, but also to be treated as one of the best wide receivers. And he was never really one of the best sort of core wide receivers in the league. He was just a unique type of player who could be used in a lot of different ways. And his insistence on not being used in those ways, combined with the arrival of Christian McCaffrey, which reduced his role in a lot of the either, sort of didn't need him in the running game quite as much, also didn't need him as a sort of safety blanket from a receiver perspective in terms of just a dump off option. Yeah, it in the end didn't need to be extended, but at the same time, it will be weird to see him playing for a different team. And for Washington, it feels like a pretty nice pickup to get a bit of experience. I don't know, get a bit of experience in there. A guy who knows how to win, knows how, how things should be approached. For the most part, has been really a great professional throughout his time with the 49ers. He has a little bit of the diva gene in him, but every wide receiver does.
Deebo or Diva?
Diva. Definitely has some Deebo gene in him. It's a shame, actually, because playing that little cut of you saying, where's Deebo being, it makes me really want to be able to get Deebo Samuel's on the podcast every week, but just for like 15 seconds, play a little jingle before, and then just tell us what he's done with his week. Like one thing he's done throughout the week that has nothing to do with football, like a place he's eaten.
Check in with Deebo segment.
Or when he went to Barnes and Nobles on Thursday or something, just like just a random update
Read a good
on his
book
life.
this week.
He's not AJ Brown.
Do you think Brock Purdy is mad that not only is he severely underpaid compared to everyone who plays, but that Kyle Juszczyk, their fullback, makes $3 million more a year than him?
I think his agent would definitely be bringing it up in negotiations.
We've got a fullback who touches the ball 10 times a season.
He blocks really well, though.
Yeah. But yeah, the Niners have had some pretty catastrophic. I mean, Garoppolo, that's a bad one. Richard Sherman, that was a pretty high-profile signing, right? And he played for a year. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, that's bound to be a bust coming up.
I wouldn't go guarantee it to be a bust, but it's not a great look in terms of the winning, in terms of their handling of those. But it's putting a lot of faith in like Ricky Pearsall, that's for sure. That's a big statement about what they feel he is capable of on the back of, second half of the season, he did look good, but really part of that is them making the statement that they saw enough from him in that period to feel like he is a Deebo Samuel replacement.
Yeah, and actually he did look really good when he was healthy. So we'll see.
And also we have to say, right,
that'll be the new one.
Getting shot somewhere. Also, we do have to say Deebo Samuel did request a
And that
true.
would have been a good one if that was our segment. And then it was like, where's Ricky been? Hey guys, this week I just got shot in the chest. Everything else is pretty good though. See you next week.
All right, where do we go from here? Obviously, a little FA Cup weekend, little bits and pieces to catch up on, but don't know if you have any sports topics lined up.
I'd like to do this quickly because I know you can get into it and we could take up the next hour. I figure this would be good because we are traveling in a few weeks to Cheltenham, and then we're also traveling to Blackburn to watch Rovers. We talked a few weeks ago how they were looking good in the playoff race. Since that discussion, they have now fallen out of a spot for the playoffs. What's the mood like?
It's all going to come down to the next...
Our visit.
Maybe. But the next 4 matches, they play 4 teams in a row coming up now in the bottom half of the table, and that will really determine... they're playing, so Derby next, who are currently bottom 24th, and the Stoke, who are currently 19th, and Cardiff, who are currently 20th, and then Portsmouth, who are currently 17th. In the dream world, you're talking about playing 4 teams in a row in the bottom quarter of the table. If you can get 4 wins out of 4, then the playoffs look great. I think you need a minimum of 3 wins from those 4 games. Otherwise, you start to have to look towards tougher fixtures and think about where can we catch up, where can we spring a little bit of a surprise and get points that we didn't expect or count on. They're, I don't think it's panic stations yet. They're only out of the playoffs. They're 7th now. They're only out of the playoffs on goal difference. Admittedly, that goal difference is 8 goals, so significant enough that I don't think they'll be able to overturn that over the course of the remaining matches. But, it's the worry would be Coventry City are in really good form. They've won 7 of the last 8. So they're the informed side out of the teams sort of 5th to 10th. I'm not super hopeful, but I'm still remain somewhat optimistic. But it will really come down to, by the time we leave Ewood Park, I think we'll know whether or not the season still has any legs left in it.
Yeah, it's going to be a must-win. We're going to have to come in with a lot of energy, get them going, and not only to win that match, but then to propel them to win future matches. A lot of energy is going to have to be had here.
Well, I'm going to be at 2 of those 4 fixtures, so Cardiff and Portsmouth away. So I will do my best to bring energy for those 2 fixtures. But yeah, it's and you've obviously got a new manager. So since we last recorded, they've appointed a new manager in Valerian Ismail, who significant championship experience and pretty distinguished playing career. So you hope that he can hit the ground running. You do normally expect a sort of a new manager bump, a honeymoon period, but they started with a draw, admittedly. So that's not exactly the biggest indicator that you're about to get that sort of nice new manager feeling, but who knows? Maybe it will start with these very winnable 4 matches that are coming up.
Yeah, and you mentioned the FA Cup. 2 kind of talking points I think I had from the FA Cup is, 1, this seems like a pretty lackluster final 8 that have now made it in terms of just watchability or just high profile clubs. You have, Man City is the only really high profile one. And then you maybe have Aston Villa. And then, you have clubs that are, well supported, but not high up in Premier League standing. So it's City, Bournemouth, Villa, Preston, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Brighton, and then probably Nottingham.
It's either Nottingham Forest or they are playing
Ipswich
tonight. Yeah. You'd look at it. It depends how it unfolds, right? Because you would say, obviously, Villa are having another good season. So seeing them in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup feels right. And Brighton are tough opponents. So if you did end up with a semi-final that includes City, Villa, Brighton, that wouldn't, or Forest, who are obviously competing for Champions League places, that certainly wouldn't feel out of place. But it's there for the taking for Manchester City as not only the best team left in the competition, but also a team that has very little else to play for aside from just trying to make sure they finish in the top 4. It's lined up in a season that's been a bit of a disaster from start to finish. The FA Cup is at least lined up in a way for them that allows them to not have a trophyless season.
And yeah, that was actually going to be my second question is, would an FA Cup victory be a slight consolation prize for them?
I think so. Certainly for certain conversations, right? So if you think of all of the back and forth between them and Arsenal, And Manchester City could end up with this awful, awful season, but still end up winning the FA Cup compared to an Arsenal side that can't win anything, even when they're in sort of peak form. It goes back, it is a case of you do need to win things. Obviously, if you'd started this season and you told Pep Guardiola or any Manchester City supporter that they wouldn't be in the title race at the beginning of March, they'd be worried about making the top four. They'd be out of the Champions League. But good news, you have a very winnable FA Cup run coming up. They would see that as being a bad season. But if they can at least win the FA Cup, it salvages some sort of dignity from the season, at least. Elsewhere, cricket, the ICC Champions Trophy is going on at the moment. It's now reached the semi-final stage. And we haven't spoken too much about it or cricket over the past few weeks, but it was the end of Joss Butler's captaincy, Reigns captain of the England white ball team. He resigned ahead of their final match, which they then lost in somewhat spectacular fashion. So no new captain bounce for the England cricket team, but things not going well for England cricket in the limited overs formats, and a bit concerning, obviously, in the build-up to the Ashes. And as someone who grew up in a period where England were not particularly good or successful at cricket, and then we had this 15-year period where we were pretty consistently quite good and won things, I have this worrying feeling that we are quickly returning to the times of my childhood.
Do you think, are there specific reasons that you can point to it? Do you think it's just a great group of players came up kind of playing together, obviously not directly together, but you know what I mean? Like kind of growing up together, playing. It was a great group for that run. And now that group is kind of running out. Because the weird thing about that is that does happen, but a lot of times, for other sports at least, once that starts to happen, then the next generation is actually usually better than that previous generation because they're building off of the high profile cases of, this group that came up and emerged and brought the team or the club to prominence.
Yeah, I would say probably had two generations, really good generations, kind of going from 2005 through to 2024. A nearly 20-year period that was two and a half generations of cricketers included in that. But, I think just to really make you happy, I think it's before I give some thoughts, it's the Andy Bernard quote on, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. And I think we had the good old days. We have officially left them from an England perspective. The reasonings, part of it is now, certainly the limited overs format, the stranglehold that India has on that cricket, and that's definitely leading to them producing just an outrageous number of quality cricketers for them. So India can maintain their standards at an extremely high level. It's tough for other nations to keep pace with them. England have had to transition to a slightly new generation at probably the wrong point in time, against a very established Indian side, established Australian side. I think there's some failings from a domestic perspective in terms of how young players, the type of cricket young players are playing. I do think when we look at the failure on the 50 overs level, the Bazball era has been really great for the test playing side of we'll just take risks and play adventurously. You would think that that's sort of purpose built for limited over cricket, but I actually just don't think it works as well, because when you put in place a time constraint,
you're already kind of having to make risks.
Yeah. And when you're just then taking too many unnecessary risks, England will score at a high rate, but be all out for 200 in a 50 over game. It's like, great, you win at 10 and over, but the other team now only has to go at 4 and over to beat you. So you haven't really, it was impressive for a little bit, but the wheels came off fast. And then I think some of the players just, quite frankly, just aren't good enough or haven't quite fulfilled their potential or been able to deliver consistently for England on the international level. You look like someone at Liam Livingston, who's blown hot and cold for England, but then puts in fantastic performances away from the international team. Even Joss Butler, who, is one of the best batters in the history of limited overs cricket, but doesn't come through for England in big moments often enough to justify the sort of aura and reputation that he has. And probably you would say that they pushed Joe Root aside maybe in the white ball version of the game too soon. And that's partly his choice in terms of focusing on test match cricket. But, when you have one of the greatest batsmen of all time and you are only using him really in one format, I think that's also not great. I don't know. We'll see if things can improve over the next couple of years, but they're not too far away from losing all of the really good, talented players you feel like they have in the side. They're not too far away from losing because of age themselves. And that puts a lot of pressure on the likes of sort of Harry Brooks and stuff to really step up. All right. Any other sporting topics to cover?
No, I don't have much. Just waiting for the NFL to start back up.
Just 6 months to go. All right. In non-sporting news then, where should we go first?
Well, I have not watched the new episode of Severance, so we can't discuss that. I watched half and then I got too busy. I know. It's
the good one.
The half I've watched is good so far.
I would say it's the best.
I really like it.
I would say it's the best episode of the series so far. But I know why you didn't have time to watch it. It's because you binged The Pitt. That took up all your TV viewing time.
It did take up all my TV viewing time. I have binged all 10 episodes of The Pitt in about 5 days. It's a good show. It's easy to watch too. I think that's the thing, right? You don't have to think too much about it. It's not like one of these puzzle box shows. It's nice.
That's your word of the season, puzzle box.
Because every fucking show, that's what everyone is now.
I do agree with you, even though it's a serious show, sort of relatively speaking, because you don't have these big story arcs, regardless of the puzzle element, but you just don't really have...
You don't have to think.
You're just sort of... It's like you're watching a documentary to a certain extent, and just observing people for a day. And so, yeah, you don't have to get too... Like, why are they doing this? Why? Oh, who is he? Who's she? There's kind of none of that. It's just like, here's the 10 characters, and you're going to just cut to them doing different tasks.
Yeah. I will say... The more I watch, the more I'll stand by my statement we made last time. It is a somewhat under the radar, but maybe not even under the radar, woke television show. And it kind of got me thinking about, because this also came up in White Lotus as well. So the most quote unquote woke part I think of The Pitt is the mask controversy that happens in one of the latest episodes. And this is along the lines of they also had a transgender woman on the show that there was issues about, like, they were calling her by her previous male name, and then they had to change it in the book, but someone wouldn't change it, but then the other doctor changed it. So that was like another instance. And then, so there have been a few that have kind of like been put in there, but the mask one, I think, was the most oblivious of the issues.
Obvious, you mean?
Yes. Obvious and oblivious. It got me to thinking, if you are someone who disagrees with the take, so obviously the take on the show was that masks are important, and then the kind of punchline was the woman had to go into surgery and she was anti-mask, and the doctor asked, well, do you not want us to wear masks during your surgery? And then she was like, why would you do that? And he was like, well, because masks don't have a benefit. That's what you just told me, and blah, blah, blah. If you're someone who is on that side, do you watch this show, watch that, and then go, fuck this show, I'm not watching it anymore? Or do you just kind of take it in stride?
I think there's probably a bit of both. I think there's I think the people who probably are going to be so offended by that in the first place, they're probably not watching The Pitt to start with. Probably that just doesn't, but, I would say it wasn't too much of a sort of political or societal comment. They weren't really arguing that you should be wearing masks, say, for COVID purposes or sickness. I mean, that's what sort of started the argument, but they were more just saying at least masks do have some medical purpose, right? That, we believe that they do something. But yeah, I think probably there's people who are annoyed by it, who feel like these sort of leftist talking points are being, sort of infiltrating every part of their lives. And why can't I watch a TV show that doesn't try and make some sort of point? I don't know. I think both of those are probably representative of things that if you spoke to doctors, sort of emergency room doctors over the last 24, 36 months and say, hey, what do people argue about? What are the big talking points? What do sort of patients ask you about? I would say those are probably both pretty common occurrences. So it makes sense to stick them in a medical drama. Like you'd kind of be ignoring major issues of the day if you just say, no, let's not talk about masks or transgender people or anything like that. So, but yeah, I think there's probably people who get pissed off by it.
Because, so the other one, the new episode of White Lotus aired yesterday. And in that one, there's a group of 3 women who are very close friends that are going on a vacation together. And then they are making fun of the one woman because she's living in Texas. And they were like, well, how can you survive being in Texas around, all these people who are Trump supporters and this and that? And then they kind of find out that she had voted for Trump. And it was kind of like, oh my God, like how could she have done that? And like all this discussion. And it's strange to think about that. The White Lotus is an extremely popular show. It's probably the most popular HBO show right now. And 50% of the population voted for Trump. And I wonder what happened. Yeah, technically, right? Like how that affects them now moving forward watching this show. Because it was clearly like, oh my God, how could she have done that? There was a stand taken on what was the right vote and what wasn't on that show. So that was interesting. Because then it got me to thinking the reverse. The only shows I can really think of that some people like to say skew towards that side are like the Taylor Sheridan shows, Landman in particular. So, and I've watched a few episodes of Landman, and they're very like pro
oil.
Oil is the way, and like electric cars are a fucking joke and are a scam. And I still watch Landman, so I guess are all people like that? Like, are they just all gonna? No, but I mean, you're whatever.
You're not like particularly political, or I think there's probably people who have watched Landman and have been annoyed by some of the messaging through it, and so have given up or complained about it. And probably we could go on Reddit or some other parts of the internet and find some very annoyed, angry people when it comes to Landman. It's definitely, I would say the difference is Landman to me, which I enjoy as a TV show, comes across much more as almost propaganda. Like it is trying to further a certain, and where I would say, and this is, I don't want to become one of the, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that, oh, well, they got like BP put in $100 million to fund Landman.
Oh, Eddie, be careful.
But no, I'm just saying, whereas what is 3M pumping money into the Pitt to fund mass purchases?
Probably.
I doubt it. But yeah, I think it probably both people on both sides are annoyed, and probably sometimes you just know which shows you need to avoid. But you're right. You do have to accept that a lot more of the media is leftist leaning.
Yeah.
But again, the Pitt doesn't strike me as particularly sort of liberal in many of the points that it's making.
It makes a lot of them.
But what else? I mean, you have a transgender person. You have a mini mask argument. You have like a somewhat racist guy who's nonstop waiting in the waiting room.
You have the element of him complaining about how immigrants have come into the country and ruined the healthcare system, and now tax-paying American can't get quick service. I mean, that's a pretty strong argument on a platform of one candidate that won.
But it kind of goes both ways, though, right? Because in that instance, he's at least being shown. We consistently do see the fact that he is skipped over in the line, and that the waiting line is just like hours long, and that there's clearly a broken element within the system in terms of how these people are being treated. So whilst he comes across as an asshole, you could say that if you agree with his overall sentiment, that the show is kind of proving to you that he's right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the guy is showing up at the emergency room complaining after 4 minutes that there's too many immigrants and that he's not being treated. It is him, time after time, seeing someone using drugs, a homeless person, like skipping the queue to go in ahead of him, and him getting frustrated by that experience. So I would say they're not really making a political point with either part of it. It's more just, this is the reality of an emergency room in America in 2025. And that's going to include long wait times, some pissed off people, some of whom are going to be pissed off because they feel like there's immigration and that they're as a taxpayer, they should be entitled to speedier treatment. Some of them are going to wait patiently. Some of them are going to be annoyed for other reasons.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just getting, the alternative to that is just a super sanitized version of what it is to be in an hospital, which is Grey's Anatomy. Let's just have someone get their arm chopped off by a helicopter and have them come in, but we won't speak about wait times at all.
Yeah. And some of them aren't, like, I agree with you. Some of them aren't very political and are just good commentaries on some of the current issues with the healthcare system. Like the one, a lot of like, what was the one where there's like a car crash and then the person's pissed off because they said the other person probably doesn't have insurance and now they're going to have to pay for it anyway. So there's like issues like that, like healthcare for low income individuals, like the issue about the unhomed person, right? Is that what she said they like to be called? They make a comment in the show, like, we don't call them homeless.
That's true in general.
No, I know. I'm just triggering you.
Homeless. You're not triggering me, but homeless in general.
I did. Look at you. You're all worked up.
Homeless in general. That's where, the terminology obviously matters. Homeless is one of those that I don't quite get what the insignificance of the differentiator is, but yes, no, anyway, continue. Yeah, there's little bits and pieces, but
where like he won't be able to take his medication because he can't afford it or he can't come in to get it. So like they have the initiatives to like doctors on the streets kind of thing. That wasn't the proper term, but it was something like that where they go and they kind of hand out prescriptions and things like that directly to unhomed individuals. So like those are just, I think, more common issues that have some politics associated with them, but overall are just commentaries on a slightly broken healthcare system. So, no, it does a good job, I think, of it. But at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty good medical show.
Yeah, I mean, it's being universally praised by actual doctors for being a very realistic portrayal of life in the ER. So every article I read or sort of YouTube video I watch with an emergency room doctor, they say it's the most realistic portrayal that's ever been on U.S. television, and that they get pretty much everything right, aside from obviously sometimes things, because it's a 45-minute long TV show, that things that would take longer go pretty quickly. But I mean, we don't actually want to sit and watch them provide someone with second by second medical treatment. That would get a little boring after a while. I didn't want to actually see that girl pick, bits of tarmac out of a guy's leg for 2.5 hours. I guess that would be one other, if you wanted to say there was not an agenda, but something in approaching an agenda within the storylines, the autistic part.
Neurodivergent.
Yes. But the fact that she has an autistic sister, and then clearly she is also somewhere on the spectrum too, and that it's getting us to appreciate that being on the spectrum is not doesn't mean you cannot contribute to society or be a fully participating member in even something as complicated as being an emergency room doctor. You would say, that would be the closest thing to me. It's a very diverse cast, but then I think that's the benefit of picking a hospital drama, is that it is natural for it to be a diverse cast.
Yeah.
Like it's an easy way to not feel in an era in which we're pushing back on the DEI thing. It's not weird to be like, well, yeah, there's 3 Indians and then like a bunch of like black nurses. And like, this doesn't feel strange to have a pretty diverse sort of background and like a few other Asian nurses and stuff. You kind of cover all of the bases without feeling as if you had to sort of shoehorn a character into the story.
Should also mention the Oscars was last night. I did not watch it. I was too busy playing hockey. Overall, it sounded like Conan O'Brien did a pretty good job hosting. And I guess the big takeaway, obviously, is always the Best Picture, and that went to Anora, which is the only movie on that list that I've actually seen. So I've done good. I can't believe it won Best Picture solely for the fact that now people will go and watch it because it won Best Picture. And the first 30 minutes is like just almost out of a porno movie. Like, it is the most graphic, sexually graphic movie to ever win Best Picture by a lot.
Wait, you're saying it's more sexually graphic than Gone with the Wind?
Way more.
Whoa, that's barely believable for me. But no, yeah, I've not seen it. I don't think I'd really seen any of the pictures that were nominated. This was not a big year for me. I mean, Horizon Part 1 was snubbed. It was just an insult to quality movie making.
They're doing the Lord of the Rings. They're going to wait to the third one.
I still can't find Horizon Part 2. They're teasing me with this. It gets shown at film festivals, but they're not actually putting it out for theatrical release. And then I read an article saying it's on a streaming platform. It's never there. It's really
What
ruining.
streaming platform is it supposed to be on? I'll check on my end.
I think it's supposed to be on Hulu. I think that's what
Paramount. It's got to be Paramount.
Paramount.
Yeah, so the other nominees for Best Picture were Complete Unknown, Conclave, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, The Substance, Dune Part 2, Wicked, and The Brutalist. So I've seen Dune Part 2.
It's the only one I saw.
Oh, and Amelia Perez. I didn't say that one. I will not watch Amelia Perez. I do want to watch The Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan one. I like Timothée Chalamet, and I like Bob Dylan. I'll watch that. And Conclave, I'll end up watching because I think it's on Peacock, so it's free. And The Substance, I'll probably eventually watch because people say it's just fucking crazy.
I like Timothée Chalamet. I don't like... I've had enough of biopics in general and musical biopics in particular. Like, I don't find Ray was interesting when it happened because it was sort of different and the...
Eddie, that was like 20 years ago.
I know. And we should have stopped pretty much there and then. We had Ray and Walk the Line, and that should have been our fill on musical biopics. And like Bob Dylan's definitely had an interesting life, but I don't know if he's had an interesting enough life. You know, he's a musical legend, but being a musical legend doesn't mean I need to see a dramatic interpretation of your life, you know, sort of, and contrasting it with Ray, you had sort of whole racial issues that went along with the early parts of his career, or Walk the Line with Johnny Cash. Then you do really have just an out there character as your main focal point. Bob Dylan is just sort of, the music's good and he's kind of weird and disappeared for periods of time and definitely a little
How do you
strange.
know you didn't watch the biopic?
I've watched documentaries though. Those were boring enough. And Timothée Chalamet, I quite like him, but I think this is very on brand for me, but we're getting too much of a Timothée Chalamet love fest at the moment. And I also didn't love that speech he gave where he said, I'm aspiring for greatness. I know it's unpopular to say this kind of thing. It's unpopular for a reason, because it makes it sort of seem like, I don't know. I don't love it.
Right. Guy wants to be the best at his craft. Nothing wrong with that.
He wants to be the best at his craft by playing Bob Dylan. I mean, that's, if he were making if he were making slightly different movie decisions, I would believe that more. Because if he is really looking at, say, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, all of them, and the decisions they took in the early part of his career, and he's like, for example, he gave I know that it's been like pretty viral, him saying in an interview that Leonardo DiCaprio gave him 2 pieces of advice: never do a superhero video and never do hard drugs. Pretty stunning advice from Leonardo DiCaprio, who's sort of consistently caught on camera doing cocaine. I know Dune isn't a superhero movie, but it's close enough. It's superhero adjacent.
No, I disagree. It's not. It's sci-fi. It's just completely different than superhero. And second off, it's with a very, very good director. A lot of the Marvel movies are just like decently throwaway directors who are just filming an action superhero movie. Whereas Denis Villeneuve is a great director.
What's the difference between being in a Christopher Nolan Batman movie and being in Dune?
I don't consider Yeah, come on. Do you think Christopher Nolan that's a superhero movie to you?
Yeah, of course.
No, that's a Christopher
How
Nolan
could it
movie.
not be?
It's a Christopher Nolan movie.
It doesn't. Well, you're correct. It is a Christopher Nolan movie, but that's not the genre. The genre
it's categorized
is
as a Christopher Nolan, not as like I don't lump Batman Begins in with Thor: Love and Thunder.
No, but that's like saying not all war movies are the same either. But the general category is war movie. I don't lump. Trying to think of. I don't lump. My mind's gone blank on coming up with a good example for you. I could go through a lot of different genres where it's all encompassing. And so, yes, there's huge variance within it, but the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are superhero movies. Like Dune is not, obviously it's not a superhero movie, but it's in the sci-fi end of that gets close to superhero. In the same way that Star Wars is basically, if you'd get him given the same
advice. Blade World? Blade World. Blade World is where I play hockey. Is Blade Runner a superhero movie? Because I think Dune is closer to Blade Runner.
No, Blade Runner is further away from being a superhero for me in my labeling of movies than Dune. And I love Star Wars movies. I mean, love is a strong word. As a kid, I enjoyed the Star Wars movies. They're basically superhero movies. They're just set in space. But realistically, is there a big difference between Luke Skywalker and Batman? Not really. And if the advice that was told to you was don't do superhero movies and then you go and do Dune, I think you didn't understand the advice.
Maybe. But I think when you get to work with one of the top 5 directors, I think you don't pass that up.
I don't know if he's a top 5 director. Well, that would be a long discussion. I think we would quickly come up with 5 other directors that we'd put ahead of him, because you're obviously going to put Christopher Nolan ahead of him.
Currently. No, I'm not saying of all time.
No, I understand. But, I don't know. I mean, obviously for me,
I would say, I think not the Dune movie. I think the bigger one that you could make a case for would be the Wonka movie. That to me is like an IP, like there for just the money kind of thing. Like the original Dune wasn't made like how superhero movies are made nowadays, where it's like, oh, now we've got to do Iron Man, now we got to do Ant-Man, now we got to do this. Like the original Dune movie originally was supposed to be like just a one-off movie. And I think it was so popular that now it's become a series. So it's a little different. But the Willy Wonka, that's
original,
just clearly...
You mean not the original, you mean the one they made 6 years ago?
Dune 1, yeah. The newest Dune 1.
But not the original that was made in the 80s.
Yes. The newest first version of Dune.
Okay. The reboot of Dune.
There we go.
I mean, like, look, let's just run through his more recent movies and see.
But the thing I'll give him is at least he's pretty diverse as an actor. He does like very different roles. To go from Bob Dylan to Willy Wonka to Paul Atreides, those are major shifts.
Yeah, but I don't know if
because I think you always make the case, which I think is an accurate thing that you say, in that some actors just play the same role because that's who they are.
Yeah, I get it. Most actors, I think, play themselves. I think he's still playing himself. He's just like a weirdo kid from New York who thinks has a certain sense of self-importance. And I think that's perfect for Willy Wonka, some weirdo guy who has a chocolate factory that, wants to teach kids a lesson. For Bob Dylan, a musician who's taken himself super seriously and thought about his contribution to the world of art and beyond throughout his career. And for a guy who's basically supposed to be Jesus Christ. I think there is a through line in pretty much every character he plays.
Which one's Jesus Christ? Wonka?
Yeah, maybe. I also think, too, like, the Willy Wonka one's a bad move because the original is so iconic. And you were never, ever going to match the Gene Wilder performance in the original. So you were backing a losing horse from the very start, in that you should have
had pretty good, but I'm not going to watch it.
It's okay. I've seen it, like, sure. It's intended for children, right? Like, we are not the intended audience for Wonka. But at the same time, if I had a kid and then I have the choice between showing them the original or showing them Wonka, I'm showing them Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or whatever the title of the original is. So I'm looking through his IMDb. I forgot how much he just dominated in the Bleu de Chanel commercial in 2023. I shouldn't have. And the Trent Reznor music video in 2023, he made it feel like home. God, this guy's such a serious actor. And he got so political in Don't Look Up. God.
Good in Little Women.
Yeah, in 2019. I would say his career actually got off to a pretty interesting start. And he's, like Beautiful Boy is a good movie. 2018. Lady Bird was interesting. I mean, if you think about it,
Lady Bird's really good.
Yeah, okay. So look at the early decisions he made in his career. Call Me by Your Name, Lady Bird, Beautiful Boy. Those are way more interesting decisions than Wonka, A Complete Unknown, Dune.
There's Dispatch, right? He's in that one, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in the French Dispatch, yeah. Upcoming, he has only one project. Thank God he's following it up with, gosh, it's such a serious actor. Fresh off the heels of playing Bob Dylan, he's going to be in the movie Marty Supreme, the story of an American table tennis legend, Marty Reisman. Story that needed to be told.
I think that's a Safdie brothers movie from Uncut Gems, and
it
another
is,
like
directed by John
the people
Safdie,
you want to be, the people you want to be in movies with right now. Like the Safdie brothers are super hot right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not an actor.
Big Picture told me that.
Think less about who you want to be a director and think more of find a good movie.
Probably not the easiest thing, though, to always pick out, like, very good movies.
You would have thought when you're super hot it is. Like, when your stock is
you think he's good looking?
No, I do him. But when your stock is highest, I think that's the moment, right? You should be more selective. And it almost feels like as his stock is rising, he's getting less selective.
It's not, Eddie, it's not, would you do them? It's, are they hot or not? What's that from?
I don't know.
It's from The Office. You just rewatched it. The game isn't would you do them. It's are they hot? That's the Hilary Swank episode.
But yeah, I mean, he should have been in Horizon. That's where he really missed a trick. He's already done a Western. Should have committed to the part.
Will you watch, just final topic on this. Will you watch The Brutalist, which comes in at 3.5 hours?
So I kind of like long movies if I'm really into the idea of the movie. The Brutalist falls into a category of I'm not sure how much I really want to watch it. And so the duration of the movie puts me off. This weekend, I watched the latest Mission Impossible for the first time.
Ooh.
And that's like 2 hours and 30 minutes long. And even that, I had to break it into two. And that kind of put me off watching it in the first place. Because it's like,
yeah,
this
and
is
it's really
long.
like a 2-part movie. That's one movie.
Yeah.
So it's
really 5 hours long.
Yeah. They broke it up for you and it still wasn't enough.
But no,
I'm going to miss the Mission Impossibles, though. Yeah, I really like those movies. They're just good at what they are. Like, the plots never really make sense. Like, you never understood why someone's actually doing what they're doing. It doesn't really matter. It's just a chance for Tom Cruise to do crazy shit and to have some cool lines and some good special effects. They're very enjoyable movies. Same along the lines of the Bonds. Like, I like the Bonds too.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And they're kind of the one thing I think that I struggle with a little bit with Mission Impossible, and this movie had a big moment with it. The Impossible Mission Force is an awful name, and it's definitely the type of thing that was named in the 1960s. And also wasn't supposed to be taken. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be taken too seriously. Based, like it was just like a stupid TV show that was coming out. The part in that movie, though, where it's at the very beginning, where there's sort of senior leadership within the U.S. military intelligence agencies and stuff, and one of them says, "Well, this is like a job for the IMF," and the guy goes, "The World Bank," and he says, "No, not the." He says, "No, not the International Monetary Fund." Two very distinct entities that someone in that type of senior role, I know they had to do it for the joke, but they could have done, this is a job for the IMF, and he could have said the International Monetary Fund. That could have been the joke rather than make this guy look like a complete fucking idiot for going the IMF, the World Bank. I didn't enjoy that bit.
All right, I guess with that, we'll wrap it up and call it a day.
Sounds good.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
See ya.